Welcome to The Last Mile, where Olga Mack and John Lindsay share how to get legal and sales to stop fighting and start closing clean.
Welcome, everyone. John and Olga here for a series we're calling The Last Mile. This is our first episode, and the title of this one is going to be The Deal's Not Done It Yet, Why Contracting is the Real Finish Line. So let me introduce myself, and I'll tell you that you'll know once you hear me say this that Olga had something to do with this introduction. I'm John Lindsay, recovering quota crusher, accidental red line historian, and proud advocate for sales teams that actually understand the legal part of a deal. Olga, I know that you had something to do with that because I can't even pronounce half those words. Talk to us.
I'm taking the fifth. I'm not admitting or denying anything, but I will introduce myself because that's absolutely true. I'm Olga Mack. I am a lawyer, not your lawyer, but a lawyer. And I am CEO of Term Scout. And sometimes at some point, I once said, I'll review that real quick. And then I think I stopped sleeping for 2 days. That's going to be my big confession for today.
I think that's got a lot to do with a lot of people, particularly lawyers in your world. So this Contract Clarity is a show where legal and sales are going to come together. We're going to put down the pitchforks because, as you know, there's love language issues here. And we're going to talk about building deals that don't just close, but close cleanly with no injuries, right? Where we want these parties talking together and loving each other and coming together for a clean, smooth, a huge high five celebration when you're done closing deals. That's what we want, right, Olga?
Absolutely. What we will focus on today is that a verbal yes is just a start. It is absolutely not a finish line. It is where friction may and often does begin.
And look, in order to kick it off, what we'll talk about is sales culture. Look, we celebrate the handshake. It's what we do, right? We're high five, and somebody said yes, it's a closed one, right? The bell rings. We feel like we're on the stock exchange. We're busting out champagne, and we've got an emoji parade going on behind the scenes. It's a done deal, right, Olga?
Yeah, now that we're on this, therapy couch, virtual therapy couch, between sales and legal, I practically feel married to you, John, as I have been feeling married to every sales leader I've supported or worked with for the last, I'm not going to tell you how many years, but yes, for legal, what does it feel like for legal? 3 seconds before you expect the deal to close, and sometimes when you expect it to be closed. Yesterday, I get like an email that says, quick eyes on this with maybe an emoji and please.
Except, as we all know, right, it's not quick eyes. There's nothing quick about it whatsoever. And it goes into, don't be offended by this, something that I like to call contract purgatory. It's that phase where the verbal agreement is done and the signed contract goes to die slowly and deals tend to suffer there. Olga, talk to me about what happens in that purgatory space. Why is that going on?
As a high priestess of the purgatory, let me tell you what happens there. It's an interesting place, the one you don't want to enter. It is where legal sees the contract for the very first time and doesn't know whether to laugh or to cry or to just maybe take a time off so they don't have to deal with it today. And honestly, this puts sales in a disadvantage. They cannot answer buyers' questions. They can no longer build trust. The buyer starts losing confidence, and somewhere there may be a competitor lurking. That happens often.
Wow. And I think we've come to the conclusion, and I think a lot of other people now that are up to speed on trying to start getting their arms around this, understand that this can be the most expensive part of the sales process. And even more importantly, it's one that you're usually not tracking, right? Nobody's budgeting for how long things are going to end up in your so-called purgatory. But when deals are delayed, the money's not in my bank account yet, right? It's on the table. and we can't take credit for closing that deal yet. And that just that's not good for anybody.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's so bad. Let me put a number on it because it will basically drive how bad it is. Say your average deal is about 50,000 and say you lose about, I don't know, somewhere around 3 per quarter because, of various contracts delays, because your competitors are much more aggressive and opportunistic and are able to communicate the value and build trust in negotiation. And guess what? That's about 600K a year in lost revenue. And let's just say, I don't care if you're a small business or large, 600K is a lot of money for any business, and you will feel it. Your quota will feel it, your revenue will feel, your board will feel. You will feel. Now, if this is not bad enough, multiply it by, number of reps you have, and 5, 10, 100, choose your number so you really feel it. And when you multiply that 600 by however many zeros, then you see the impact. And this cost of internal friction, that escalation, that late renewals, that bad forecasting, that's real money. That's real impact on your business, on your bottom line, and frankly, on your reputation, the way you show up in commerce.
Oh, it's on your people too, Olga. I mean, think about what it does to culture because we're talking about delays, but we also have to talk about what it does to the culture and the motivation of people there, right? It's decay, not just delay, right? You're losing momentum, you're losing trust, and all of a sudden, back to what we are talking about earlier, right? With the therapist and the couch, legal and sales, they're not looking at each other as buddies anymore, right? They're not having any fun. Now they're starting to point fingers at each other. And that's where everything starts to come off the rails, right? Because there's an enormous penalty to that, way more than just money. So this thing erodes. And when it does, it takes down the momentum and the energy and the enthusiasm of that entire team, your business.
Yeah, it's more than that. Sometimes they're pointing fingers at each other, and that's actually not the worst case scenario. Sometimes they don't even talk. And that's how they end up on the couch, the proverbial virtual couch of therapy between sales and legal. And the worst part is that most companies still treat contracting as an afterthought, as a necessary evil, as something you just have to deal with. It's that thing that has to be done, but it's not that thing that is streamlined, that actually accelerates, that actually helps you to show up as the valuable player in commerce. It doesn't allow most companies to really enable their products to have an impact. And it's not owned by deal desk, it's not owned by RevOps, it's not owned by sales. Legal just deals with it as an afterthought, as a triage, as a basically ER every single time.
Well, to go back to a sports analogy, since we did an episode that was kind of around the balls, now we'll move it to the puck. It's like blaming the goalie for not scoring a goal. That just makes no sense at all, does it? Last time I checked, you a hockey fan?
I am a fan of every man who chases a ball or a round object or just shows up and runs around. And heck, they don't even have to run around. If he plays chase, it's good too.
Well, typically goalies ain't scoring, so you see the dilemma here.
I see a dilemma. But if you want to change your deal velocity, you really need to stop treating a contract as a necessary evil and look at it as an opportunity. You need to change how you contract. You need to change how you show up, how you build trust, how you draft to optimize for closing. The contract isn't the end of the sales funnel. Revenue doesn't start when you get to contract stage. It is the final mile, and frankly, it's the most critical one. And if you mishandle it, all the work you did from top of the funnel all the way to where you are, guess what? It's lost. It's disappointing. You're gonna be upset because you don't get to your quota and your bonuses. Your manager, your executives, your CEO will be like, "What the heck? We could have had this in our revenue, and yet we don't." That will have impact. It's disappointing all around. Do not lose your deal in contract. It's the most disappointing thing in the world.
Well, so that being true and that being said, let's talk about what you can do to be able to impact that in a positive way.
Yeah, so many things you can do. I personally like how we help Term Scout. We help companies certify their outbound contracts with independent clause by clause ratings. And this means sales walk into negotiation with a proof of fairness. And legal walks in knowing that paper is already been vetted and they can stand behind it. It captures the risk profile and they can say where they stand, articulate where they are, how that position have been taken, and really how they compare to their peers. And all of that consistently will improve your speed, your velocity. It will accelerate your revenue.
Well, you pointed it out earlier, and I think I missed a couple points here where, again, with shared KPIs and using the certified contracts, we're talking about trust, and we're not talking about it as a feeling or a vibe anymore. We're talking about it as a data point, right? We're talking about a tool that allows data to be parsed such that we can start to measure and track where we are in this. And so, who loves that? Buyers love that. Sales, they love it, right? And guess what? Legal loves not being the bottleneck, right? So it's almost like you wrote a book here, Olga. I see the love languages book in my mind coming, and I see this harmonious, like it's like a movie script going down, right? Where these two parties that really were not in love before found this language that they could wrap themselves around, and all of a sudden clarity takes hold, and everything you just described there starts to take shape. And wow, I mean, that's exactly what organizations should be striving for, because when that happens, this is where all the goodness comes from, right? That's Dr. Phil in a bottle that you can start to apply to your organization. That's amazing. That's exactly what companies are striving for today.
A Dr. Phil in a bottle. I love that. But let's recap. Let's recap. The deal is not done at a verbal yes. The handshake is just the beginning. It is a chance for you to build trust and show up as a true partner. That contracting stage is where you show your colors. And make no mistake, your buyer is watching. They will know how you make them feel at that stage. And if you think that one color, whether they actually close that deal or how that relationship unfolds, you are very much mistaken. Contract is not just a formal place. It is a place where trust is built, where players are remembered, where relationships of trust that propel deals forward and ultimately allow parties to go back to that well and build more.
No, agreed. And I think you hit it on the head. It's strategic, and when you make it like the strategic lever that it can be, it becomes less of the red tape fire drill, right? And much more of something built in that's positive for everyone. You're going to close faster. It's a smarter deal. It's a cleaner deal. Everybody's happy. That's what you want, right? It's built into your strategic vision. Everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction. And now you've got something, as you said, the handshake was just the beginning, right? Now we've built trust. It's formalized into the agreement. Now we go forward and we execute, right?
Yeah. John, you talked a little about that purgatory, that contract purgatory, and I gave you a little bit of a glimpse, but guess what? I think we should talk more about it. I think we should talk more about it and actually give folks strategies about, maybe how to escape it, with systems and signals and frankly, certified templates. Just so, in case you don't enjoy that place. I mean, if you do, go stay there. But for folks who actually want to have an escape route, I say we do another episode. What do you say?
I'm in, and I would suggest a couple things. I think, first of all, we were awesome, so you got to go like us. Second of all, we were awesome, so you got to go subscribe here so you can see more of this. And then lastly, I'd say, look, go over to www.termscout.com, and you can see certified contracts that can turn your finish line into the launch pad that we're describing. So we'll see you next time. May your deals be fast, fair, and as Olga says, friction.